Hey folks, here we are. I have no answers today. I've tried to get on the computer for the last 10 minutes and it's telling me Facebook is not available. And I checked my internet hookup and everything is there. So we're gonna do today with the Facebook, and we're gonna use my telephone. And it says we're live, so here we are. It is Monday, December 14th. We're 11 days from Christmas, folks. And, and 6 more, so we're 17 days to the end of 2020. And I think so many of us are so happy and glad that 2020 is going to go away. We hope and pray for the vaccine is going to be the answer. It's just going to take a while before it gets disseminated. I don't know, folks. We hope and pray as we start every day with our presentation. We want to offer our prayers for everybody that's been affected or impacted by the COVID in what's going on. And our prayers go out to those who have lost loved ones. Prayers are out for the loved ones that have been lost, that the Lord would open his arms and take them into his kingdom without question. Under the circumstances that we're under right now, the COVID is expanding everywhere, and they're closing restaurants, they're closing businesses down. It's going to be a tough time, and just because they have the vaccine and everything, it's not gonna fix it, because the financial impact of this thing is going to go on for, I believe, a couple of years, because there's been thousands and thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of businesses have been lost because of COVID. People just couldn't keep it going. Most businesses, this is not get rich quick. They make enough money to make a living, but all of a sudden, if they can't do business and the volume is that low, then the handwriting is on the wall and they end up losing their business. So anyway, our prayers go out to all of those folks. And as I sit here today, I wanted to start today. Over the weekend, I posted some videos over the weekend. I was doing some research for the summit that's coming. I'm planning a big summit that's going to be probably the first or second week of February. And I'm planning to have somewhere between 20 to 30 speakers at this event. And it's really about fine-tuning and focusing on the mission here, what we're trying to do. Because what I have realized after 44 years of the financial services business, 30 years ago being on the edge of bankruptcy and clawing my way back to where I am today, I'm not the wealthiest guy in the world, and by far, and I'm doing okay. But it's been a long journey. And I know in my mind that if I had not grown personally, mentally, and I had not expanded my ability to think and made changes along the way, I probably would not be where I'm at today, because as we grew the business and grew our way out of the problems that we had, it was a growing experience. So I really believe, and my whole focus is on personal and business growth with financial growth. So as we grow finances, and that's what I coach people to do, I realize that you have to grow you at the same time. Now, maybe you don't want to, say, well, I don't read books and I don't do this and I don't do that. Well, all you're doing is creating a lid. You're putting a lid on where you can go. So you're going to be stuck. There was a thing a long time ago, if you take a flea, little fleas, they can jump hundreds of times their height. And there it is, fleas. So if I take a bunch of fleas and I put them in a mason jar and I screw on the lid, those fleas in that jar are going to bang against that lid. They're going to continue to bang against that lid. And you know what? After a while, I can take the lid off and the fleas won't jump out anymore, because they will have been trained by banging up against that lid over and over and over and over again. They will have been trained to only jump so high. And that's really the same idea with you and I, folks. We sit here and we live in our atmosphere that we all have around us, that we have developed and created. See, your atmosphere is your atmosphere. It's who you are. It's where you live. It's like I said, the fish don't know they live in water. You get the idea to that? So here we are in our atmosphere. You know, I have an atmosphere. We all have an atmosphere. And that atmosphere is guided and developed by the people we surround ourselves with, the places we go, the things we read. That expands or contracts our atmosphere in our lives and what we do. So we have to be weary of that. We have to be aware of that atmosphere that we live in. So as I talk about financial mastery coaching, I talk about the blueprint, I talk about prosperity economics, prosperity thinking, poverty thinking, we have to make a decision, folks. You gotta want it. You know, you are not going to pay a price unless you are willing to input action. I posted over the weekend a couple of inspiration videos. There was one by Denzel Washington, and Matthew McConaughey was the other one I posted over the weekend on here. Take a few minutes. They're both short. They're both like 10, 15 minutes. They're very short. Please take time and listen to what I post on the Family Money Farm group. Remember, I'm here to change your life. If you don't want your life to change, God bless you. I'm not here to make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. But I realized a long time ago that if I have dreams and goals at age 71, I got to believe if you're 40 or 50 or even 60 or 20, you are somebody that has some ambition. You have some desire to accomplish something in your life. Remember I said it's not what you do, it's who you become. It's not the money you make, it's what you do with the money. And there is so much good that needs to be done in the world. And I guess this is a recruiting video. Here we are. We're recruiting people to better themselves, better their business, better their financial position. And I know good people will do good things. And that really is the bottom. That's the purpose of all this, folks. We need to step up and make a difference. I posted a video a week or so ago called Be the Example. It's on my YouTube site. You can find it, Tom Young. You find my YouTube channel. It was a 1-hour talk that I gave, 45, 50-minute talk I gave in Houston, Texas a couple of years ago. And really it's about being the example. When I talk about being the example, we don't know who is watching us. There are people, children, our neighbor kids, your friends' kids, your friends. People are watching you. Because people, I mean, deep in their hearts, they're looking for somebody to show them an example, to somebody to lead them, somebody to increase their belief in some way that, yes, you can. You can do this. Yes, you can. I believe in you. That was what Jody whispered in my ear that night that he gave me a hug when I was at the absolute bottom of the pit, searching for hope. And I hope that that's what I can give you. I can help you find some hope in your life that will take you further than you ever thought possible. That's really what it's about, folks. You know, as we talk about the prosperity thinking, you know, when I look at the financial part of the world, we started talking about this on Friday. We talked about typical financial planning. Now realize financial planning did not exist prior to 1970. During the 70s, at the end of the 70s, Jimmy Carter had laid out inflation at an unbelievable level. It was over 15% inflation in 1970, 69, 70, 71, right in that area, which was 50 years ago. It was a long time ago. But all of a sudden, the inflation turned everything upside down. And in the early 1980s, interest rates skyrocketed to prime interest rate was 21.5. So if you were making a business loan or a commercial loan of some way, they usually added 1.5% to 2% on top of the prime. So there were people that were actually paying 23 and 24% interest in business. That didn't work too well. That was Nelson's story in his book, The Infinite Banking Concept, when he understood the snakes and dragons that were going to eat him alive. He had to get control of that. And one of the ways that he got control of that was he had purchased, because he was a life insurance salesman early in his career, he had purchased lots of permanent life insurance. And the cash value in that permanent life insurance was the element or the ingredient that helped Nelson to get out from under the snakes and dragons that were eating him alive because of the high interest rate. People were making mortgages in the early 80s. A 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 16% interest. Can you fathom that? I couldn't. I don't know. So those were the things that were going on. So out of that was born this concept of financial planning and high interest rates and universal life insurance and things that were going on, investment products, tax shelters. All of these things were born out of this economic turmoil. And on top of that, we had the Club of Rome. I talked about that the other day. In 1968, they were formed. They predicted oil was going to run out by 1993, and that led OPEC. 1969, OPEC was formed, and in 3 years, they increased the price of crude oil by 1,000%. Went from $1.23 a barrel in 69 to $12 a barrel in 1972. So these things that we look at today that we're told, well, this is the way everybody does it. I don't believe it's true, because there is traditional planning. Traditional planning goes back 100 years. And before that, it goes back 150 years. Traditional planning was saving money in a life insurance policy. And at that time, mostly all of those policies were offered by a dividend-paying mutual life insurance company, and those policies had rates of return inside them that was better than a bank account. And guess what? There was no tax involved. The government was not involved. The government was never informed that you owned this life insurance, and it's why over the decades beyond that big business and corporations and banks all gravitated towards using this specific investment grade, by design, high cash value life insurance to store their money in. It became their economic and financial money warehouse. It became their warehouse of capital because they had complete access to this money without involving the government or generating a 1099 or paying a tax. That was why the government in 1986, under TEFRA and DEFRA, the tax acts, where they attacked life insurance and they wanted to tax the inside buildup. So the end-up compromise that was made was the new law called the Modified Endowment Contract Law in Section 7702 of the Revenue Code, created a definition of life insurance in the tax code. And that definition, it limited how much cash value you could have based on the death benefit or the face amount of the policy. And so that was the beginning of what they thought was going to stop the life insurance. But really, this is a lifelong strategy, a strategy to create real, tangible wealth with certainty, to have my money safe with certainty. that can be measured for over 150 years through, you think about it, in 150 years, have there been some bad things happen over the last 150 years? You know, we've had world wars, we've had pandemics, and all the things that you can think of, we've already had them. And all of those companies, guess what? They survived all of that stuff because of their conservative nature, and the way they manage money is really different than the marketplace. So I'm here to talk about traditional planning, which leads to prosperity economics, versus financial planning, or the typical planning that goes on today. Typical planning focuses on the rate of return on the money. Well, where the heck do you find a rate of return on your money today? You know, it's all tied to what? Risk. You have to take lots of risk in order to have a rate of return today. But with that, guess what? You know, with those mutual funds, the only guarantee that you have is a guarantee of a possibility of 100% loss. That's the only guarantee they offer. There is no guarantees in any other way, shape, or form dealing with the stock market. So the only guarantee that they can offer you is the possibility of a guaranteed 100% loss. Do you really want to get involved in that? Now, I'm not saying the stock market's bad, but there's a whole lot of building and foundation has to be created underlying all that before you get to uncertainty. If I look at the list of prosperity principles, remember we talked about think is 1. Number 2 is see. 3 is measure. 4 is cash flow. 5 is control of your money. 6 is liquidity. 7 is economic rates. Now, the next 5 I'm going to name are very advanced. You have to understand the first 7 completely before you're going to understand the next 5 I'm going to share with you. What I refer to as the advanced or mastery level of finance or prosperity economics. Certainty. Do you truly understand what it means with certainty? If you're planning for retirement in a couple of years, do you want certainty? I don't know about you, but I sure would want certainty. I want a guarantee that I'm going to have income for as long as I live, no matter how long that is. So do you understand what certainty is? Certainty isn't necessarily a guarantee of something. Actuarial. Actuarial is so important to understand because actuarial science is a science of statistics dealing with human lifespan and how to measure it. And using that, you can actually create what I refer to as the eternal rate of return on your money. Well, what's an eternal rate of return? Well, that when I'm in retirement, you know, that abstract number, the death benefit, the face amount on that permanent whole life policy, that guaranteed mutual dividend paying policy that has certainty in it, guaranteed certainty. The death benefit, there are ways to leverage the death benefit before I die to have a much or a substantial increase in retirement income over my retirement years. Actuarial science is very important. Number 10 is multiply. You know, we understand fractional banking. I don't think you understand fractional banking, or you would be flocking to my door in my appointments, and I would have a full email of people wanting to talk to me. But fractional banking is where you put money in the bank and they create $7 through the Federal Reserve System, the fractional banking system, for every dollar you put in the bank. So if you store all of your money in the banks, the commercial banks, you feed inflation. You are a cause of inflation. So don't cry the next time inflation comes back, because it will be back. I just realized right now, I don't believe we're going to see inflation for a while because we have been in such a spiral of deflation. Deflation is scary because there's nothing the Federal Reserve can do to increase the economic output by lowering interest rates. How much lower can they go with interest rates? I don't know. So being able to multiply your money, get $2 and $3 and $4 value out of every dollar that flows through your life. So the multiplier effect is way different than inflation and fractional banking. Number 11 is leverage. Understanding leverage. You know, we talk about leverage, we talk about mortgages and those type of things, but you really have to understand leverage. Leverage is when you use other people's money, OPM. If you're in the real estate business or you've ever invested in real estate, you know that the highest rate of return that can be created is created using other people's money, OPM. And number 12 is uncertainty. Learning how to use uncertainty to increase your wealth or your value in some way. Now, I'm looking at my clock. We're over 20 minutes today, and I'm going to cut off there. But we're going to continue this journey this week because I have a whole list of prosperity economic principles we're going to start through tomorrow. We're going to go through this in detail and keep the party going. But I want you to share what I'm doing. You need to tell other people about me. Send an email, send a link, lead people here so that we can make a difference in America, a difference in the world. Because these principles work everywhere. And this is so important. You know, I had a discussion. My CPA dropped me off a box of candy for Christmas today. Ron Raymer, just 2 doors up from mine here. Great CPA. So you're looking for a CPA, you want to look up Ron Raymer. He's located in Beaver, Pennsylvania. So I'll give him a little bit of plug. But he and I were talking about the debt. I got an email the other day from my niece, Jamie Ostraha, and Jamie is a PhD in chemical engineering. She's a pretty smart gal, you know. There's a story with Jamie. When she was in Drexel College in Philadelphia, she joined the ROTC, and they were doing rappelling, and she rappelled out of a 15-story window on a building, and she had the wrong gloves on, so she couldn't grip the rope. And after a little bit, she fell 13 stories to the floor, to the ground. And the only fortunate thing was she landed in the bushes on the dirt, not on the concrete sidewalk. She was in the hospital. She was in a body cast for 9 months. Now, all of that is great. She was wonderful. It was a miracle that she now has 2 little babies, a boy and a girl. And she is just an amazing, amazing young lady. But the whole 9 months she was in the body cast, she still maintained her 4.0 average in college. And eventually graduated, got her master's, got a PhD, and was writing papers for the government. But anyway, she sent me this email the other day. And just to be a little political about what we're doing, can you imagine how easy it was for the government to begin to tell you what to do, where to go, what you could spend money on, and on and on and on? Who would have ever believed in their lifetime that our freedoms would have been so infringed upon as they have been over this pandemic thing? The politicians, I believe, have taken a huge advantage of us, all of them. You know, I'm not being one side or the other. I'm not pointing fingers. But this is a turning point in our society, and we have to be aware because the government's spending money. They have amassed over $27 trillion of debt. And that's the admitted debt. That's the credit card that we all sign off on. And each of us, as a citizen, has a share of that of close to $90,000. Every taxpayer, if we just look at taxpayers, the people that pay the tax, they're on the hook for over $240,000. Now, on top of that is the unfunded liability. Those are the promises that our politicians have been making for years to constituents and segments of society to get people to conjure up their vote. You know, they make promises that they don't have to deliver. They won't even be around when they have to be delivered. And that total right now, Social Security, Medicare Part A, B, and D, Pensions for government and military. It's $155 trillion. If you add that to the 27, it's over $182 trillion. That's about $1.3 million per taxpayer in America. And until somebody steps up and stops spending money, no matter how much it's going to be painful, they cannot continue to just spend money. Now, all of that being said, see, that is the underlying purpose to what I talk about. Because someday in the future, and all the free countries in the world are doing the same thing. They're all printing money. They're all doing the same thing. So you and I, in order to survive the future, are going to have no debt, have control of money, have a large amount of accessible capital on hand so that we will survive what's coming. And all that being said, I can see somewhere in the future, the government's going to have to pass an emergency law. And they're going to confiscate all of the 401ks and pensions in America, and they're going to turn it into Social Security Part 2. And that $7 to $10 trillion, they're going to take it to Washington to cover their interest on the debt. Because the interest has been averaging about $500 billion in interest per year, even with the increasing balance, because the interest rate has been going down and down and down and down. And now the 10-year Treasury, which is known as the benchmark, is under 2%. It's actually under 1%. So it's going to be horrendous, folks. You better be prepared. You need to tell your friends to listen to what I'm talking about, because this is going to be a monster someday. And when that's going to be, I don't know. Could be 5 years, 10 years, could be 20, 30 years from now. But somewhere along the way, we look at the pandemic. It came from China, I believe. And the Chinese want to be the world financial anchor. They want to be top dog. Scary. Scary. Get my book, The Family Money Farm, The CFO Project. Go to cfo-project.com, sign in, put your name and email address. You'll actually get a PDF. You'll get a link where you can download and get an absolutely free copy, cover to cover of the book. It's what you want to do. So anyway, God bless. We'll see you here tomorrow again at noon, and we will continue our prosperity economics journey, our prosperity thinking journey, and on and on and on. So with that, God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.